solve this problem. Because in relationships, then when you can talk to people and they don't fear you or your opinions, because they know you care about them and you're not trying to damage them. Because people who come out of dysfunctional families are always fearful somebody's out there to hurt them and damage them. Because that's how they felt in that home. They're always worried about being damaged by the primary stressor. Or even their siblings telling on them because they did something the primary stressor didn't want them to do. So you have to build relationships. That's what the body does. You build relationships so that they'll somehow take down that facade, somehow take down that barrier and begin to listen to you and share with them how you feel about what's happening and the decisions they're making. Don't do it judgmentally. Don't be preachy to them. Don't be acting like you're self-righteous. Just love them. And you can help them eventually make inroads there into how they deal with their own problems. It's not impossible to do, but it requires them to reach the point where they realize they can't go on doing the way they're doing because their relationships are sending messages to them. Red flags. You're causing deep-seated problems in your relationships. And most people don't want to be around you, don't want to have anything to do with you because of how you're acting, because of your emotional upheaval. That's the only way I know it'll work, unless you can get them to counseling. But that's a threat too, isn't it? But if you can, and get to a counselor that knows what we're talking about here, he can do a lot of good, or she can do a lot of good. Anybody else? Yes?
In America, we have a growing epidemic of fatherless homes or motherless homes or step families, and they're becoming the norm. And you've talked about how God's plan is the biblical way to go about it. So what would you advise to single mothers or single fathers or step families that have all these challenges that make fulfilling God's plan so much more difficult?
Well, as you saw in the book, that research has been confirmed even since I wrote that book, that 50% of single-parent families, most of them are women, live below the poverty line and have a lot of dysfunctionality and delinquency with their kids and on and on. So it's a big problem because there's something about the masculinity issue where they need a father to help them understand what it means to be a man, who can be a leader, who can love his wife, and what masculinity means. It's not just this huffing and puffing and want to beat you up kind of thing, or what happens on the football field in the NFL. That's not what masculinity is all about. It's about a man who can be a strong leader and lover at the same time. They need a man to express that to him somehow and see that being modeled. And sometimes it's good if an older man, perhaps, who's raised his kids, and he can maybe spend some time with the kids of a single-parent family to provide that kind. That's the part that we're talking about in the body, isn't that what Paul's talking about? That the weaker parts, the stronger parts respond to and try to help. They need that. There was a study done way back in the Watts riots. Some of you may not remember that. I do, of course, some of us older ones do. There was a study done one after the Watts riots that gangs had been a part of that, of course. And the sheriff of LA County did a study, a massive study. He's still recognized as one of the great research studies of all time, to find out why kids were leaving home and going to gangs. And almost 90% of those cases were cases where there was a fatherless home. And they went to gangs because they felt needed, wanted, and accepted. That probably says a lot right there. Are we out of time, or do we have some more? Anybody else? Yes? How do you what? Healthily bring up the issue? It depends on who you bring it up to. Well, I think you've got to have a relationship, not a buddy-buddy relationship. But you've got to have a relationship with your kids where they don't feel threatened by you. And they realize that you're going to discipline them when they mess up, but you're going to listen to them, you're going to love them, and you're always going to accept them. God always accepts us no matter what we do. He doesn't condone our behavior. But I've seen parents, after they've spanked their child or disciplined their child, they'll have nothing to do with that child the next day or two. Send the message, I don't love you right now because you messed up. That's not the kind of message that's going to build trust in that child and a comfort level where they'll be able to express themselves to you and listen to you. So always accept them, even if you have to discipline them. Always love them. And so when they see that as there, then they're going to be more open. And don't be critical all the time. You know, there's times you can be critical, but don't always be critical. Don't always be talking about what you're doing wrong, child, or what you should have been doing over here. Constant criticism doesn't do much to build trust between the child and the parent. So develop that kind of relationship with them, not buddy-buddy, but a relationship that you're a mother and a father that really loves that child and you care about them. And you're not going to be there to be judgmental all the time on what they do and they don't do. They'll open up to you. And that's when you can help mold them. And you need those dinner times as a family. I can't overemphasize that. You need those dinner times as a family to help that process.